In the mystical realms of psychological anthropology, scholars embark on a captivating journey through the enchanted tapestry of human minds and the magical dynamics of psychological processes that shape their collective experiences. Like psychological anthropological sorcerers, researchers unravel the spells woven into the intricate relationships between cultures and their mental landscapes, delving into the enchanted territories of emotions, cognition, and the transformative power of psychological phenomena. The study of psychological anthropology becomes a mystical exploration, where the threads of cultural influences, symbolic meanings, and the preservation of mental well-being converge in a narrative that spans the realms of consciousness and human understanding. Psychological conjuring. Psychological processes become a conjuring process in psychological anthropology. Psychological anthropological sorcerers navigate the magical dynamics of mental landscapes, unraveling the spells that connect cultures to their psychological experiences through the intricate web of cultural practices. Cultural alchemy of minds. Minds become a form of alchemy in psychological anthropology. Researchers investigate the magical transformations that occur within cultural perspectives on mental well-being, unraveling the spells that shape how communities define emotions, cognition, and mental health through the alchemical bonds of cultural influences. Symbolic psychological sorcery. Psychology becomes a sorcery in symbolic representation. Practitioners explore the magical dimensions of psychological symbols, unraveling the spells that influence how cultural narratives are communicated, identities are formed, and values are transmitted through the symbolic representations of psychological experiences. Psychological chronicles. Psychological chronicles become tales in the enchantment of psychological anthropology. Researchers explore the magical narratives of emotional journeys and cognitive processes, unraveling the spells that connect individuals and communities to the timeless stories that define their cultural heritage through the lens of psychological phenomena. Transformative psychological conjuring. Psychological processes become conjurings in psychological anthropology. Psychological anthropological sorcerers investigate the magical aspects of psychological rituals and traditions, unraveling the spells that transform individuals and communities as they engage with the symbolic and social dimensions of psychological practices. Wisdom of psychological tradition. Psychological tradition becomes a form of wisdom in psychological anthropology. Researchers explore the magical significance of psychological practices passed down through generations, unraveling the spells that designate certain psychological traditions as culturally significant and imbued with historical and symbolic meaning. Language of psychological sorcery. Psychological language becomes a sorcery in psychological anthropology. Practitioners delve into the magical dimensions of how psychological terminology is used to convey societal perspectives on mental processes, unraveling the spells that convey nuanced narratives of emotional well-being, cognition, and the complexities of human experience within the psychological framework. Mythical psychological spells. Myths surrounding psychological processes become spells in psychological anthropology. Researchers explore the magical symbols and representations associated with psychological myths, unraveling the spells that convey cultural meanings and connections to the collective imagination through the lens of psychological narratives. Community enchantment through psychological experiences. Community becomes a source of enchantment in psychological anthropology. Psychological anthropological sorcerers explore the magical aspects of communal participation in psychological well-being, unraveling the spells that foster a sense of belonging and shared cultural identity through the interconnected web of mental health practices. Ephemeral psychological chronicles. Psychological narratives become ephemeral chronicles in the enchantment of psychological anthropology. Researchers weave together the threads of cultural influences, symbolic meanings, and the evolving role of psychological processes, creating a narrative that captures the enchanted essence of the evolving relationship between communities and their intricate web of psychological phenomena. In the captivating realm of psychological anthropology, the study of human minds and their cultural influences becomes a mystical journey through the enchanted forces that shape the intersection of culture and consciousness. Psychological anthropological sorcerers, as scholars are metaphorically described in this context, weave together the threads of cultural influences, symbolic meanings, and the preservation of mental well-being into a narrative that captures the enchanted essence of the evolving relationship between communities and their intricate web of psychological processes.